Hello, welcome to the Square Base Show with your host, Rob and Val. And today we are going to be deep diving the Cathayan lore and asking what's going on with the Chinese.
What's going on with the Cathayans?
No, that can't be the intro. That can't be the intro. That can't be the intro.
What's up, Beijing? Hey, that's an Atrioc. That's an Atrioc intro. Whenever he talks about China, he goes, "What's up? What's up, Beijing?" It's excellent.
Okay, let's not be intro
right.
pilled. No, that can be the intro. That's fine. That's fine.
Could that be the intro? I don't know.
Listen, in the comments, first shout out to the comments a minute in. Let us know what you think. Is that an okay intro? We'll keep going. So today, we are going to be talking about going through the Cathay book, and we're going to talk about
Cathay. We're going to talk about Cathay, not
Cathay.
the CCP.
No,
Cathay.
And then we're going to be talking. We're going to be talking about the law. We're going to be going through the law in what is a patent pending. This is the second law video we've done.
Whew. Yeah.
Woo.
I think it's actually genuinely maybe 1 year to the day since we did our last lore video.
Yeah. I'm not 100% certain or confident of how I'm going to try and I'm powering him through. I'm telling him that you lot want to watch this. So if you don't let us know in the comments. But if you do, right, we only need positive reinforcement, okay? Because we can cover other books. What's happening with the Troll Horde? We could read it.
You're right. And we could also cover Dan Abnett's Fell Cargo from 2006, a novel set in the Man of War universe.
Well, I was about to bring...
clearly people want.
I was about to bring that up. I was about to say, before we go any further, if you have been watching last week's Romper Stomper weekend, people were pointing out 3 videos in a week. Felt like a lot of videos.
There's a lot.
But we did talk about the rise and love of our deep love of the Man of War game. And it turns out that there is not only a Man of War PC game, Man of War Corsair, available on GOG. GOG.
What is GOG?
GOG is like off-brand Steam.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah. Off-brand Steam. There's a bunch of them. I'm not really sure. But it turns out in our deep research of the Man of War game there's also a novel written specifically for this game by none other than award-winning author Dan Abnett.
Woo!
Is this going on your list?
Zombies, pirates, and dark fantasy adventure on the high seas! ! Look at the investment on that cover as well.
Yeah. Moody is how I would describe that. What's interesting as well is Games Workshop very recently... Why didn't
they center the skull? Why isn't the skull at least centered a little bit?
That's a great question. Games Workshop in the past few years have released their Warhammer crime kind of like series. But little did they know that 20 years ago, they'd already done a crime series in Fell Cargo. Pirates! Although, are they criminals, or are they just not following licensing laws? We don't know. Are you going to pick up either of these two things, Mr. Heffelfinger, or are we going to cover these and review these on Men of War, the new Square-based show?
Square Sheets, Square Sales. I'm so sad I'm blanking. There were so many amazing recommendations for the name of the channel. We're already like 4 or 5 episodes in. If only we could remember the name of it, we could tell people. Just Google around. I'm sure you'll find it. You know what we need? We need just because we don't want to like we probably need to build the microsite first, and then once we have the microsite, then we can really start getting the channel going. Or like the genesis of this show, maybe we'll have to do Man of War Mondays, and then we'll work our way up to independence. So like it's baby steps. You can't build a Warhammer Bodal empire in a day. It takes steps.
You can't. But before we go any further than that, I have a hot topic this week, which has kind of pissed me off. Right, kind of pissed me off because I try really hard to look decent, but you went to a wedding this week and you looked amazing. Right?
Oh, thank you.
Look at this.
I was very proud of my outfit. Hey.
Oh, hey.
My tie's a little off in there. Yes. This
You
is
look good.
Few drinks in. Thank you.
You look good. You look good. It's always just nice to see you scrubbed up. And I was worried. I thought you were interviewing for some TV presenter jobs and were going to leave me. I got mad. I thought you had like some real sports at the touchline energy.
There's some Good Morning San Diego, or whatever the hell that is. What was that?
Anchorman
vibes there in that particular look.
I was trying to be a lot more complimentary, but I guess Ron Burgundy's a vibe.
Ron Burgundy is probably the most attractive Will Ferrell ever got.
Yeah,
I had to guess.
Well, it feels like that's a tier show we should do for sure.
Most attractive Will Ferrell looks. Wow. Have we run out of old world content? We'll find out.
Absolutely not. Well, it's actually impossible to run out of old world content because we haven't even reviewed any of the books yet in 1.5.
We've also got Back Pocket, Tomb Kings and Bretonia, which we just pretended like they didn't exist, which we hear about every single show. Let us know in the comments. Tomb Kings and Bretonia.
Coming soon.
Are you still waiting for it? Yeah.
Update on the Bat Rep Room. I think we're about 4 weeks out from maybe putting it live. So pretty excited about that for anyone who's excited. And then also Mr. Val Heffelfinger, how tickets going for Squarebase Toronto?
I think we're up over 30 at this point, which is pretty exciting. Really, really happy about that. I realized recently that I need to get some insurance so that we can run the event. That would be wonderful. But yeah, no, tickets have been going well. There's some controversy in the GTA Squarebase chat over how I'm doing the scoring, but it was actually a really good conversation because I am going to try using the rather than counting the secondaries as just victory points as part of the total, and then changing the differential like you did. I think I think your way of going is a good way to go. And I want to see how it feels going the way that I think it could work well, which is that you kind of separate off the secondaries as part of the battle points, and you have a point swing. And so I really liked how that worked when I was running the 9th Age style missions that I was in the spring. And for some reason, it was suddenly controversial. The folks in Ottawa were like, wait a minute. And they ran at Capital City Bloodbath. They ran like almost like raw out of the book. They ran the 6 points scoring system. They only did one secondary per mission. But it sounded like by all counts they had a good time. They went straight battle points as well. They got rid of win-loss. So everyone's got a different way of running it. This is all very very shop talk though for tournaments. My suspicion is no one will care. We're gonna have a really good time. You can find tickets in the didgeridoo. You can also find links to Rob's events at the TSN. You got another 2,600 point event coming up real soon, I think.
I do. Yeah, I think that's the next one on the docket, which is pretty exciting. Those are now my favorite. I think those are. I think I have to probably start putting tickets up for next year sometime soon. And I've got to ask myself, like, what's my plan? Because I've done this year, I did in 6-month blocks because it was much easier for me. I'm not very good at like those maintenance style jobs. So it's much easier for me to just be
you gotta dump them all on there.
Yeah, I just did it all in 6 months. Right, there's the next 6 months. So I might do the next 3 or 4 months in 2024. And I'm like, I don't know. Probably I'll give you a call and talk through it to work out the points level I really want to be at. Obviously, somewhere above double steam tank level, obviously.
2200, I have to say, has been really nice. I've been playing some test games at it. So it is fun. It's not, because you removed the 1,000 point cap, right?
Yeah,
so I kept it, if only because, and shout out Arachnarok, Goblin Priest, Goblin Shaman on Arachnarok, because he gets eliminated by the 500 point cap. But I felt like I don't know why they did it this way, but that 500 point cap I think is strictly to remove the Chaos Lord on Dragon, or at least make it so that you can only really bring him like with just basic kit. So if at 2,200 points he only goes up to 550, but then he can start getting real tough again. And I thought like that was like kind of one of the centerpieces of their attempt to errata the game. And so that's why I kept the 500 point cap. Maybe I should have just targeted the dragon. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's all good.
I just think 2,600 is a very fuckable amount. Like, it's just very sexy. Like, everyone just puts a lot of stuff on the board. You're like, I feel like I need to dim the lights down a bit. I'm like, oh, we having a lot of fun here? Maybe too much fun.
Hey, everyone just pile in, you know? As long as you know the password at the door, you know,
just
it's
get involved.
all good.
Get involved.
Okay. Well, I will say maybe next year old Val comes over for a 2600 pointer.
Let's go. I love that. That would be fantastic.
2400 breaks down to 600. At least 2400 would at least be an even number. Because you get what? So that'd be 600 points in core. So what are you at 2600 you're at how many points in core?
Who cares?
I don't know. Doesn't matter. Right. No one could possibly know this math.
Let's start with the lore.
And then one more.
Yeah.
Because I don't say it enough because I'm immediately at 1 month after well, I don't even know. Again, assuming California exists, I will be going and running the Cali Cup in Pomona, I believe is the name of it, which is somewhere near LA. And that's going to be a lot of fun too. So there's tickets and information for all of the above and below in the description. Yeah, why not talk about some lore? There'll be chapters for this. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, so first page, we're going to take a page each. This is from the new Cathay book. We're going to learn about Cathay, traveling the seas, and maybe eventually ending up in Marienburg, which Val's favorite of the city-states, because it's got a lot of boats.
Yeah. It's got boats. It's got a bit of Dutch influence in it, and it's up in the north. Right now, it's still the Westerlands, I think. And then after the Great War, I think that's where they break off and become the state that my Empire Army is mostly painted at is Nordland, which is similar to Marienburg in colors. Anyway. There you go, a little lore for you, little heraldry talk to get us all looped up.
So, would you like to take the first part? We'll do paragraph each. First one's yours, sir.
Yes, absolutely. The world of legend is dark and dangerous place, a place where evil things lurk and destructive forces gather. Whilst mighty kings and would-be emperors squabble over transient and inconsequential matters in their quest for worldly power and riches, champions of darkness build their might. In the cold north, they raise their banners, gather about them vast hordes of warriors, and prepare to make war upon the weak nations of the south. Turmoil in the old world.
Turmoil. Okay, for centuries, the rulers of Sigmar's once powerful empire have governed a divided nation. Their squabbles over the throne weakening their once strong realm and leaving northern reaches the old world vulnerable to the threat of enemies and invaders. In Britannia, noble lords ride hither and yon, crusading boldly against a myriad of enemies, whilst twisted beasts multiply unchecked beneath the shade and boughs of the deep forests.
Ooh, I like that line.
Yeah.
That's nice. Shade and boughs.
Shade and boughs.
In the lawless realms of the border princes, outcasts and exiles fight viciously to enlarge their domains. They build rough fiefdoms from which to plot revenge against those that drove them from their homelands, expending energy upon war with their neighbors that would best be harnessed against the deathless legions that march against them.
Yeah, of course. Like, as always, and as you and me know from geopolitics, petty border squabbles do nothing to help us in the grand scheme against the inexorable toll of the deathless legions, aka billionaires. I think that's right.
and they're robots.
And they're robots. Clankers! Right.
Clankers!
In the mountains, proud dwarfs raise mighty throngs and march boldly into the long-lost ruins of their former glory, sell their lives in pursuit of a dream, a reclaimed, faded grandiosity. Across the storm-wrecked seas, haughty elves play games of political intrigue and pursue their own causes, oblivious to the pirates and corsairs that ravage the lands of their allies. I'd like to stop there for a moment. Okay, because every time pirates do come up, I'll obviously think of Man of War, but also long awaited have there been the Vampirates.
Yeah.
Long awaited, and every reference to them I will use as I will over-egg and be hyperbolic about the fact that, you know, Vampirates confirmed. What do you think? Do you want to dive in with me on this?
I mean, it's plausible. I love the idea of them bringing in Vampire Coast. I was more intrigued by them finding ways to talk about why the High Elves don't care, why they're distracted here. Still not a lot of insight to that, because obviously I think that as the there's like two analogs to Britain in the lore of in the lore of
the old world.
Of the old world. You got, I guess, Albion for more of the what would you call it? What's sort of ancient Britons? What's the reference for that?
The Celts, I guess.
I guess, yeah. And then you have obviously the High Elves as the haughty the British Empire type stuff with their powerful navy and such, and they're just dinking around. So that's what really catches my attention there, because I want to know more about them High Elves. What's going on in Ulthuan?
Okay.
But anyway,
yeah, just you're right. They are suspicious. Like, they're quite internal right now. They're quite closed off. You're absolutely correct. Okay, next line, Shu.
Whilst on it, they love whilst. I don't know what it is about Games Workshop writing. Loves whilst. Whilst honest folk quake within humble abodes, the great and the good, their rulers and kings, pretend the world is at peace and congratulate themselves upon the security of their realms, willfully ignoring the shadows on the horizon and the looming storm clouds from which their subjects hide.
Absolutely no current parallels to that sentence at all. The ravaging the ravaging of Westerland, when the almighty champion of chaos, Frydaal the Chainmaker, she's become such a main character. First led her wolf. Go on. What are you gonna say?
She's got supporting main character energy for sure.
For sure. First led her wolf ships across the Sea of Claws to raid the shores of the Empire. None within the barony of Westerland.
Capachow.
Yeah. Well, what's that for?
Sorry, Capachow. For the link to the video where we dive deeply into the lore of Frydaal the Chainmaker.
If we did all of the books, we would be able to kapaching everything.
Bow, bang,
yeah.
boom.
Anyway, the barony of Westland was prepared for a viciousness and determination. When what at first seemed like a seasonal raiding of coastal towns and villages by Norscans quickly became a war for territory. If you don't know, quick TLDR, she took over an entire town where both there was lots of opportunity to re-release the Null Ironsides, and they never did. They're in the book, but the minis were not out. Disgusting.
Manon's Blades are the ones that they appear there, yes. But also there's an Null army that didn't get the Ironsides for some reason. So, what
Disgusting.
can you do?
Okay.
Disgusting. Those tasked with the defense of the Empire's northern coast were not ready for an enemy seemingly driven by dreams of conquest, because they're just fisher people. They were just literally fishermen trying to fish, and they're getting wrecked by Norscan raiders. And when they requested reinforcements, they did so too late, blaming the victim. And the response from Marienburg was too little. The town of Hollum was quickly razed to the ground, and in its place, twisted monoliths proclaiming the glory of the ruinous powers were raised. Arnau soon followed. Its defenders put to the sword, and though the raiders would withdraw back across the Sea of Claws when the cold winter drew in, they would return the following year, the arrival of spring thaws heralding yet more death and destruction.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Within a few short years, the Chainmaker had carved herself a considerable fiefdom within Westerland's northern quarter and made Hollum the seat of her power. Refugees poured south ahead of the remnants of shattered mercenary companies sent by Marienburg to aid in the defense. And all the while, more wolf ships crossed the Sea of Claws and challenged by the Elves and shrouded Isle. Again, look, what are they doing? Bolstering the numbers that fought under the Chainmaker's banners, navigating the River Arnu to raid far inland and spread yet more fear and misery. What they left out here is actually when the refugees made it to Marienburg. The Marienburgs actually put them on a boat back, and they were like, "Get out!" They're like, it's literally a chaos wasteland. They're like, "Get out!" So shocking moments in Marienburg at the moment.
It's making me question my loyalty. Not a chance.
Okay, all right. So that was just a scene setting page, right? They love us.
Yes, we've caught ourselves up to where we are in the very present moment.
Okay,
part of the world.
So let's talk about the withering of the Laurelorn.
Whilst savage barbarians defiled the northern reaches of the wasteland. Constructing crude abodes from the ashes of ruin and erecting vile monoliths amongst the remnants of imperial towns and villages, evil things crept unseen into the Laurelorn forest, led by Kralmaw, the prophet of ruin. They crawled from their lairs in the Reekland and Drakewald forest, drawn by the unheard summons of something ancient and powerful. The true children of chaos also coming to the aid.
Yeah, I'm not listening to this. I'm not listening to this propaganda though. That like just because you're a chaos fella, you don't know how to put a good A-frame and build a house. I feel that's outrageous. Like there's some pretty good smithery. Have you seen Chaos Warrior armor? There's some good artisanal.
Chaos Warrior. We're talking beastmen here. Pretty sure they live maybe lean-tos.
I don't know.
Maybe some dugouts. That's basically what they got, I think.
Okay, all right. Okay, fine. If they're just talking about Beastman, I'm okay with it. Don't know why I am, but okay. Deep within the benighted heart of Laurelorn Forest. Laurelorn? Laurelorn?
I think I'm going Laurelorn.
Yeah, where no man or elf dares tread, something dark and twisted muled its infantile wailing, stabbing at the minds of the bestial prey shamans across many leagues of woodland, filling their slumber with dreams of ruin and calling them to its side. In response, many of the prey herds began migrating, skirting the barren midden moors and trackless mirror moors, bringing their corruption into the previously unsullied glades of Laurelorn Forest.
In their wake, they left behind despair and ruination. Towns and villages were overrun by disease, mutation, and death, their populations seemingly vanishing overnight. And only ash was left behind to tell they had once stood at all.
I think about this all the time, but like the scale of depopulation that they talk about in these books does really strike me as being problematic to like an ongoing civilization. Like, you know, look what happened to France after Caesar's genocide. You know, like they never recovered.
Yeah, it takes a bit of time. Yeah, and they really do. They do really lean on the hyperbole, especially since you know, I guess the premise of this is that it's such a no big deal that, you know, Cathay has to literally travel across the planet. I assume. And to deal with how negligent they're being, but also perhaps we're dealing with a situation where, you know, they don't have smartphones, they don't have cell phones, there's no telegraph, so maybe it's just a fog of war situation here. Things are happening so fast and the devastation is so quick that the rest of the empire and the old world and, you know, they're sort of being caught unawares. It's only been about a year, right? And if everyone's dead, you know, who's telling the story, right?
Yeah, exactly. The scale sometimes is a bit like one village could be enough, but they're like, no, whole villages. And you're like, okay. Anyway.
All of them. Yeah, so we're talking like big swaths of territory here. You know, and again, this is like essentially Empire Canada. So, you know, this is like Manitoba getting wiped out or something, or perhaps the you know, one of the territories. So, you know, if that were to happen here, now I don't know if I'd know.
No big loss. What I'm saying? No big loss.
You know, I'm not saying it's not a big loss here, Rob. I'm just saying I may not be aware.
He's going to tell me behind the scenes. Watch out. Yeah, he's Toronto born and bred. Yeah, he's furious.
I am the Southerner you despise in the equivalent Southerner you despise in Canada. So there you go.
Deep within Laurelorn, Elven Kinbad stood ready to defend the forest. Also, I just want to apologize for making everyone think about the Roman Empire again today. To drive out the corruption that had taken hold and to slay the infant Shadowgrave before its evil could fully manifest once more. But this defense was to be short-lived, for though Orion himself traveled the world's routes at the head of his wild hunt, the primal ferocity of Kralmaw's prey herds would prove too much. Madness and despair fell upon the king in the woods, and long before the winter cold came to claim his diminishing vitality, his physical form lay shattered and broken beneath the cloven hooves of his enemy.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's pretty interesting.
We should have read that lore. That sounds like it was fun.
Yeah, that would have been really fun. Yeah, we should go back and read the Beastman book next.
Yeah, or what else?
Yeah.
Wow. So Orion gets effed up. Apparently, that's big.
Well, he dies every year anyway, so I guess it's kind of a like.
Oh.
Yeah, and then he gets reborn, right? That's his lore.
Yeah, that's totally his lore. Of course I know his lore. I'm a lore expert.
That's obviously his lore, right? All right. Okay, next page. Whilst wait, well, I mean that's pretty important, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, you got me excited. I thought we were about to get a whilst, but we're not. We're getting Portents of Ruination, as if what we just read was not enough of a portent.
Yeah.
To any that cared to look, the signs were clear to see. Winds of dark magic blew strong from the north, carrying whispered forebodings of doom. Carried upon those winds, chaos had taken root in the empire, and the ruination of the old world was sure to follow.
Ooh, yeah, it seemed that none cared to look whilst barbarians from the frozen north carved themselves a nation from the southern shores of the Seer Claws and raised their dark gods in lands once sacred to Ulrich and Menen, whilst herds of beastmen defiled the Laurelorn and inflicted untold cruelty and wickedness upon the folk of the wasteland. Elspeth Margarita, the Empress of Coin, turned her attention elsewhere to her people. She seemed more distracted by the growing power and popularity of Reichland's young prince, more interested in tales of the Wolf Emperor of Osterland than she was the increasing plight of her own subjects. Also, just worth saying, if anyone's ever played Total War, Warhammer, the northern coast is incredibly difficult to keep hold of. Incredibly difficult. Constant raids. It's really annoying. And I really feel like we need like a Great Wall situation on the coast. It was very difficult.
Hey, you know, if there's one thing that Margarita is not known for, it's building that wall. She did not do it.
She did not.
Also very marshy, bad footing for a wall. Very, it's different than what the Cathayans are dealing with. That's very good foundations up there.
I like what you're talking about there. Also, we need to talk about where the quarries are. There's like a lot of factors. Again,
Rob's favorite, Warhammer logistics, guys. He's going to start again. If you're a fan of our previous story time, Warhammer logistics factored big into that one.
Well, you just brought it up. You're like, we're going to need some sort of drainage system. Complicated.
Well, I guess what's interesting geographically here is that Marienburg's actually quite a bit down. Like, right, it's like down the riverhead, and then what's Westerland is actually all sort of, I guess, north and east of where Marienburg is. So it's sort of like a gateway to the place that it's apparently overseeing. So it's, I could see the insularness built in there because again, it's mostly a naval city. It's a trading city. And we're talking about sort of hinterlands that it's actually supposed to be governing. So, perhaps the governing body doesn't care too much about the large amount of space out to the north and the east.
Agreed. Okay. Next one is you. Indeed.
Indeed. No whilst. Excellent. Indeed, she only seemed to act in order to address the increased piracy in the Sea of Claws.
Oh,
emboldened by their
Vampirates.
No, Norscan raiders. Emboldened by their conquest, Norscan wolf ships hunted the wallowing merchant vessels that crowded the waters en route to the teeming docks of Marienburg. Thus, under storm-laden skies, the naval might of Marienburg battled to protect its shipping lanes, lest trade, their city's lifeblood, be harmed.
Oh, okay.
So they don't care too much about the fishing villages. They're more into the trading ships.
Correct. Meanwhile, on the Shrouded Isle, I can't believe that the mercantile leader only cares about money and not the population. No parallels at all. Meanwhile, on the Shrouded Isle, the servants of Sea Lord Aisling seemed oblivious to the turmoil that surrounded them. Petitions from Marienburg went unanswered. The commanders of the sleek and deadly warships of the Aisling's fleet only showing concern when elven vessels fell victim to the fury of the Norscans, whilst the elven merchants that docked in Marienburg wondered aloud when the Empress would reconsider the tithes she had placed upon their goods in recent years.
Margarita, it might be an analog that's a little close to home, perhaps.
Okay. Margarita's an issue at the moment.
Yep. A little bit distractible. A growing shadow in northern Cathay. Oh, big camera pan. We're going across the map of the old world. We're being reminded now we're in a Cathayan arcane journal. Let's see what's going on over there.
Well, that set the scene for needing help, right? It's like everyone's like, the leadership is bad.
Leadership is bad. They're distracted, and there are true things assailing them, and they're not paying attention to the things that actually matter.
If only someone could see into the shadow with dragon eyes.
Interesting. In northern Cathay, the defenders of the Great Bastion had also seen changes in the behavior of the fur-clad barbarians that descended annually from the blighted Shadowlands. Changes that suggested increased fervor and devotion to their ruinous powers. Changes that in centuries past had heralded great strife to come.
Whole regiments of towering Chaos Warriors clad in forged blackened plate had become common sight, as had fearsome knights of Chaos bedecked in grotesque finery and mounted upon snorting and fang-toothed steeds. At the head of these
Hold on a second here. So over in the old world, they're getting bombarded by marauders and basically, Viking pirates. But meanwhile, Cathay is dealing with actual Warriors of Chaos. So if we were wondering, where are the Warriors of Chaos of the Warriors of Chaos faction? They're beating up on Cathay.
Well, the last Arcane Journal, to quick TLDR for everybody, and if you haven't been keeping track, Cathay is effectively a nation defended by either mountains or a giant wall, continuously beset from a couple of different locations, ogres and specifically the Chaos Warriors in the north. And they've been in an eternal landlocked struggle. So much so that they built this giant fortification. They even have done that kind of expansionist kind of we will reclaim the realms crusade style attack with one of the dragon children. So one of the dragon, but eventually that failed massively. So definitely excursion north is not possible. It's kind of a Game of Thrones style. Okay, we can build the wall, but we can't conquer further north than that. That's too much. Again, don't want a Roman Empire, this bad boy, but analogs to such,
Adrian.
I guess.
Yeah. Well, Adrian's wall up there, yeah.
And obviously the Chinese wall as well. So that's the situation that Cathay finds themselves in, that they are a regular organized nation with a complete army that is dedicated to a constant total war in the northern reaches. Straight
vigilance.
Yes. Absolutely. So yeah, it's just worth pointing that out. But you're right. Having there always be warriors and always knights and stuff that they got to face against. The Cathayan soldiers must have seen some shit.
Yeah, absolutely. They got real people to duel with down there, up there, over there, wherever it is.
Whereas not to be rude to Empire, but they are making the Empire soldiery out of people like me, like a lad who's dug a couple of turnips, and they've been like, "There's beastmen. Grab your pitchfork. It's time to fight."
Well, you have shoes. I mean, say what you will about your material conditions. You do have shoes, and Empire State troops might be barefoot. If last I checked, I'm not sure.
So just bring it up. Anyway, at the head of these terrible regiments strode mighty champions. The Chaos returned from their perverse quests and unholy crusades into Chaos ways to lead the tribes of the Shadowlands against the realm of the Celestial Dragon.
Okay. All right. Scrolly downy a bit for me here. Okay, yeah. With the return of these fell champions of ruin to their tribes, the Marauders themselves had become more fervent in their adulation of the dark gods. So again, underscoring here, Frydaal, I don't think isn't dedicated to a particular undivided chaos god. Yeah, she's undivided. They also go they I guess go out of the way to sort of say that the tribes that are attacking in the Empire are kind of chaos adjacent. They are getting whispers, but they aren't sort of open devout followers of chaos necessarily.
Or blessed necessarily by.
Correct. Yeah. So these guys though, these are more of our traditional chaos foes that we're seeing here. Symbols of the many totemic animals that represented the aspects of chaos in the tribe's crude and brutal philosophies had become more prominent. Amongst the ragged tribal warriors, the stigmata of chaos was becoming more apparent in the form of foul mutations, deformities of body and soul that the warriors wore with pride. Priests and shamans bellowed praise to the demonic pantheon and conjured foul magics from skies that roiled with the fury of otherworldly winds.
What I do like about Chaos is, like, obviously Chaos, if no one knows, Moorcock, that's his name, an author. Like, the Chaos Pantheon was stolen from another author. I can't remember his first name. I apologize. But in recent...
That's just the way they want it.
That's exactly. But in recent years, especially in AOS, they've lent far more heavily into the concept that they are northern style barbarians, and then lent into Norse kind of mythology and mythos. Like, especially in AOS, we've seen kind of these like fell beasts and like shamanistic style, like the idea, I guess, being that there's like dark and brooding horrors that eventually move to Chaos. But like before Chaos was there was obviously like a peoples, and they had cultures. So it's quite interesting to see them subverted, but also integrated into Chaos. Like, you know, if you were to think what would happen if Cathay fell intentionally to Chaos, like, then you would have obviously Chaos themes, but you would still have like Cathayan themes as well. I know you're very keyed in on that, but you know what I mean? Like, it's interesting that just because you're Khorne or just because you're Nurgle, it's also the culture that it was born into made that quite interesting. Like, you've got a very stylized take.
Yeah, it's the fact that in AOS that there's a very northern barbarian vibe on the Chaos stuff. Almost, it's almost like they were designed for this game. A great evil was stirring in the Chaos wastes, one that remained as yet unseen and unnamed, but one that would soon be unleashed upon the world in a tsunami of death and destruction. Okay,
all right. So. We've just got some evil in Cathay. Allies in the East. In Nangao, Miao Ying, the Storm Dragons, this is our main character, saw this time and again as she stood atop her bastion, and in her slumber she heard the whispers from demons from the Aether in her dreams. In Weijin, Wambo, the Jade Dragon, heard rumors of the creeping corruption from the spreading unchecked, carried from distant lands by his innumerable agents, and from their sister Yin Yin, the Sea Dragon, they heard disturbing tales of increasingly bold Norscan wolf ships and Vampirates, and the creeping taint of chaos that infected them, driving their crews to sail further to raid ever more viciously and commit greater acts of brazen, brutal purity. So we're just going to get like a recap of Cathay now.
Yeah,
we've had a recap of that, but a recap of Cathay.
Yeah, and also, setting the stage there, the different Jade, so the different dragons, the dragon children of the Celestial Dragon Emperor, all have different portfolios. They're like the ministers of the dragonocracy that they have in Cathay, and so we got to see the roles of at least 3 of the dragon children there, which is cool.
That's good.
With growing concern, the Jade Dragon, who's like the diplomat dragon, I guess.
Yep.
Listen to tales of the political strife that threatened the security of distant lands. Stories of the deep-rooted divisions within Sigmar's empire troubled him, although it has been going on for like 600 years at this point, or 300 years. Troubled him, as did news of the woes that beset the King of Bretonnia as he campaigned to rid his realm of the orc and goblin menace. Learning that the elves of Ulthuan and the dwarfs of the World's Edge Mountains seemed too concerned with their own affairs to heed clear signs that the ruinous powers were growing in strength, disappointed, but did not surprise Wanbo.
Okay. Gradually, after much consideration and meditation, the Celestial Dragon's regents came to believe, perhaps reluctantly, that Grand Cathay would have to interject in the affairs of the West. Wanbo reasoned that if their distant allies did not set aside their petty rivalries in order to battle their enemies and suppress the resurgence of chaos now, they would surely be overwhelmed in the decades to come. Okay, so here you can see, as you were pointing out, what you're about to say, they need a reason for Cathay to be over there, right?
Yeah, there's perhaps some worrying analog here about China being the savior of the West and needing to come and save it from its own distraction and such. However, I would say that the greatest thing probably driving this narrative is that they need a reason for Cathay to be in the old world. So they need something that's drawing them there, and that would be, I think, the main conceit here. So we need to establish some sort of lore reason for Cathay to find their way west. I don't know. I don't know if this is a subtle a plea for China to save the Western world. I'll try to read it that way.
Also worth pointing out, we're 3 pages in now, and we've established what's happening in the Empire. We've established what's happening in the world. Generally, now we've established what's happening in Cathay. So I'm not mad, but we haven't really got anything. We've just got a lot of like, hey, here's an overview, and I need a little bit more. Here we get a map, which is pretty fun. It starts to give us a direction of where the Jade fleet traveled to and from. Here we can see the arrow going across. So did they go the other way? Am I making this up? Did they go east?
No, they would have gone around essentially the Horn of Africa. So yeah, they went west. So south, and then underneath. There's no Suez Canal here either. They're going the long way around, I would assume.
They're going the whole way through.
They're going all the way.
Okay, question from me to you, also to everyone watching. Which nation would most likely successfully complete the Suez Canal in the old world?
Dwarves.
You thinking? Okay.
Well, they're good at digging. They're good at digging and engineering and stuff.
That makes sense. That does make a lot of sense. I do love the idea of like a wood elf Suez Canal, like guarded ferociously. Very funny. And here you can see the direction of what we're talking about. Marienburg over here, and the direction that the Jade fleet also takes. We've got Laurelorn Forest here on the right-hand side, and this is where our beastmen are kind of invaded from. The red arrows show where we're getting Frydaal the Chainmaker's people. Aranau, the seat of power, is in the north there, and invading down. So this is definitely to the western side of what the Empire is or was.
Yeah, it's the north. Yeah, the north. This is the northwest corner of the Empire, which is fairly east in the grand scheme of things, because you got to the left is like Bretonia and that area of the world. So this is like coming in from the Baltic, basically, I guess, in real world geography.
A lot of opportunity for bottles here. Just putting that out there.
This is just redlining the Bodal supplement right now. Absolutely.
Right, Diplomacy of the Dragon. Since before the birth of
this is actually genuinely. So here we go, writers. This is genuinely what I want to understand: is how does a giant fleet from Cathay, which is sort of known but not that known, with like a real incredible army that could easily invade and take over the Empire itself if it's this divided and such. How does that show up and not be immediately perceived as an invasion threat? More so than a bunch of Norscan raiders who are just sort of haphazardly blowing stuff up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Since before the birth of Sigmar, Cathayans have made the perilous journey to the Old World. Old Worlders have journeyed to Grand Cathay since the dim and distant days of ancient Nekahara's glory. Merchants from the far-off realm of the Celestial Dragon have plied their trade amongst the markets of the Old World, whilst diplomats from the Celestial Court have strode the palaces of great rulers and tyrants alike. Can I give an analogy here? So I was driving up to Scotland recently, and they had a Timmy Hortons, right?
Yeah,
yep. Good old Timmy's. So we didn't stop, but obviously I wanted to stop. But I saw a Timmy's, and I thought, I don't think Canadians are trying to invade, right?
Well, yeah, that's soft power, though. That is Canadian corporate soft power.
Yeah, but that's what I'm trying to say. I think Cathay, what that first sentence is saying is Cathay has developed like a huge soft power. I assume not only is there Cathayan merchants, there's Cathayan restaurants. You can go out and get yourself some Cathayan bao buns, like
maybe
at the weekend. So, I feel like that there's a lot of Cathayan soft power in these nations anyway. That's if Cathay didn't intentionally seed their populace in the Empire as spies. They're running a Cathayan restaurant, sending a couple of letters back home. Who knows?
What are you saying, Rob?
What the? You'll never look at the Old World again.
Also, Marienburg is not a bad spot for them to come to, because it would be one of the few places that would interact with faraway like seafarers and like naval-born places. So like, inland in the Empire, they probably have no clue what Cathay is, and they probably wouldn't have any interaction with them except perhaps some of the goods that come from there. But here they might actually have some direct contact. So it's not a bad conceit to have Marienburg be the place. As I think Marienburg is the Empire's most sort of cosmopolitan place. All right. Strangers in a strange land. To most within the old world, the very name of Grand Cathay is strange and mysterious. The name of a distant and exotic land populated by mythical creatures and great heroes. Indeed, to a humble peasant toiling the fields of Bretonia, or a lowly laborer in the cities of the Empire, the world beyond their meager experience is strange and unknowable, a place filled with incomprehensible wonders and terrors. Accordingly, the names of faraway realms such as Grand Cathay become bywords for the unknown and the unusual. Orientalism, if you will.
I'm now just thinking of like Cathayan pop bands, C-pop. That's a great choice from Rattling Boy in the chat. Like someone's put like Cathayan Six Spice, right? Cathayan Teppanyaki. Like there's such an opportunity of soft power here. Anyway, yeah, there are many within the old world that are selling like dragon bones, but like, oh, we have dragons. Here's some dragon. Anyway, yeah, there are many within the old world that are, if not intimately familiar with such faraway realms, at least much more accustomed to their names, their languages, and often to the customs who dwell in such places. This is because, contrary to what many might think, a great many denizens of the old world of legend are well-traveled and industrious in a world full of unimaginable dangers, where hordes of rampaging orcs can descend from mountains or burst from the wilderness unheralded, or where murderous barbarians from the frozen north can appear without warning. The folk of the civilized nations upon which the evils prey refuse to cower behind fortified city walls. To conquer the darkness that lurk... Oh, sorry, the next one is here. Sorry. So, like, this is giving... I don't know if it's retconning, but they're definitely saying many of the there's a traveling class of like upper, like the lords and ladies of all the different factions are traveling all about.
Or at the very least, there is a seafaring and outwardly looking group, in the old world, and that's well established in lore. I mean, they gallivant over to the the Lustria and all sorts of places. And also, clearly, a lot of those cultures are coming to the old world, so they're going to interact with the moneyed classes, the merchants, and the people who hold power and land and stuff like that. So, yeah, of course, there would be a tier. We don't know quite how public education works in the Empire, at least not off the top of my head. So, how much your average person would know about those things probably would be low, but obviously, there's a class of people who would wind up interacting.
Okay.
Anywho, to conquer the darkness that lurks all around, men, dwarfs, and elves have long sought to tame the wilderness and forge alliances with close neighbors and distant kin alike. Thus do they sail great distances and adventure far across dangerous wildernesses in the hopes of reaching the civilized nations that lie beyond, returning with wondrous tales and great wealth.
Yeah, I guess there's lots of examples of that in kind of medieval history of people just like plunging into distant nations attempting to find their fortune, right? Like that's a very common story.
Common trope.
Yeah, Cathayans in the old world, in this adventurousness, the people of the old world and Grand Cathay are not dissimilar. For every adventure that departs the tumultuous southern kingdoms of the old world in search of safe passage through distant deserts and mountains, as many bold Cathayans willingly journey westwards in the name of the celestial dragon. For every brave soul that boards a ship in the harbors of the old world to seek adventure and new lands, as many dutiful subjects of Grand Cathay are willing to sail ocean waves in service of the Jade fleet. Okay, so follow-up question. Obviously, like, they can't say this right now because they're not released, but are we to assume that in the future we'll get of course there were Kislev ice merchants in every city, of course halflings were cooking pots of food in every land we could see. Like, do you expect that to be like kind of slowly rolled in as we see maybe other factions or other stuff in the future?
I hope so. Like, again, so we're see, one of the frustrations I have here is that they're doing what they always did, which is they've said Cathay's on lock. They got a big wall, they got mountains, they got an ocean. They're stable and they're in good shape. We don't have to worry about what's happening on that half of the world because obviously Skaven are nowhere to be found, ogres don't exist, etc. So they're finding a way to get the Cathayans in the old world literal geographic area. And as a result, now that they're saying that there's this intertwining of like there's more cultural exchange than has been suggested in the past in Warhammer Fantasy, we have to establish that conceit. What's cool to me is going forward as no new lore and this new sort of world perspective is established, that provides opportunity to think of, okay, what is the Warhammer Fantasy narrative like when you have another culture in it like this? And so that's cool. And I hope they do it more. And if they want to retcon, oh, they were always there, or there's always been cultural exchange, there's always been interaction between these worlds. That's fine with me, because that opens up so much more interesting stories you can tell.
Also worth noting that they don't get on donkeys and pack mules. Again, reference to many a boat. Just highlighting that. Many a boat.
Well, the first one was that they do search safe passage through distant deserts and mountains. So the overland thing is there, but these are established as seafaring civilizations. So it's better to take a boat if you can.
Also,
walking's hard. Takes a long time.
They keep talking about boats. I feel like they're prepping us for loving boats.
Maybe there's just a Total War DLC coming. In the largest and most cosmopolitan ports of the old world, Cathayans are not entirely unknown. Merchants and their bodyguards can be spied upon the thoroughfares and within the markets of great cities, dressed in outlandish fashion and peddling the most exotic of wares. Their appearance does little to allay the incredulity with which old worlders greet tales of the celestial dragon's realm.
Okay. Such travelers are usually visiting merchants, come ashore to conduct their business from the large and brightly colored junks, the rest of the previous voyage from Cathayan southern harbors to the seas of the old world. Others are ambassadors to noble houses and royal courts, come to converse with rulers and facilitate alliances and treaties. Indeed, on more than one occasion since the founding of Sigmar's empire, the celestial dragon's own children have ventured west, representatives of their immortal father, and forging friendships with kings and queens and emperors that endure long after the passing of the mortal rulers of the old world. That must be crazy. Like, oh, I met your grandfather. That's wild.
I met Sigmar. Yeah. But I guess the humans would be somewhat used to that, just with elves and such. Just that they there are much longer lived mortals out there.
Yes, absolutely.
The great trade routes. Despite the vast distances that separate Grand Cathay from the nations of the old world, there are numerous well-trodden trade routes that facilitate travel and commerce across the wildernesses of the world of legend. From the bustling and heavily fortified towns of the western border princes beyond Barakvar, where merchants and mercenaries gather to plan their expeditions across the dark lands, to the chill lands of Kislev, where nomad tribes wander the wide open plains that stretch from towering Zamoski to distant Nangao. The lands between East and West are more populous than many old worlders would ever believe, or what Games Workshop marketing would have you believe as well.
The World's Edge Mountains. From the Border Princes, there are numerous trade routes through the soaring peaks to the World's Edge Mountain, each more infamous than the last. From the north of the region to the Silver Road passes under the imposing shadow of Karazakarak, offering travelers comparatively safe passage through the hostile mountains, guarded as it is by warriors of the Everpeak. Further south, the East Trail meanders through Mad Dog Pass. It's western and guarded and secured by the efforts of many petty lords of the Border Princes who rely on its traffic for wealth. I mean, good opportunity, I guess, worth pointing out as well, that like one of the key elements that they've added into actually match play Warhammer are baggage trains. So like trade and travel seems to be at least a theme of not only the narrative that they're constructing, but the game they're making us play.
Logistics ever more present in Warhammer the Old World, to Rob's great delight.
We influence them. That's it.
Clear. Our fingerprints are all over this.
They listened to our last lore video. They were like, yeah, how do they get the materials to the different places?
Further south still, the old Silk Road offers travelers the most direct route through the World's Edge Mountains, but such directness does not come without peril. The road crosses the northernmost corner of the orc-infested Badlands before entering the mountains under the shadow of Black Crag. The pass that lies beyond, known as Death Pass, is overrun by orcs, goblins, and worse, what could those be, forcing those that would follow it eastwards to travel in the most heavily armored of caravans and in the company of whole armies of mercenary guards.
I mean, doing some sort of like trade style war games is very, very fun. And I guess also they're taking on the theme of what old world, like old world, Total War old world is about, setting up trade relations. Like they've they have added a lot of logistics to like the universe, which I guess don't really get thought about in the other games, or I don't see it talked about this much. Like that's half a page in a book talking about trade lines.
Sure. Or again, how are these places connected? Because they are absurdly far apart. And again, until the age of sail, when we figure out how to tack down the coast of Africa and get around and into the Indian Ocean and over to I guess the east. Until then, it was a lot of hoofing it across, very long distances, and there wasn't a lot of direct contact. So, like the Silk Road wasn't necessarily, one person and his donkey, hoofing it all the way across. It would be a series of handoffs and trades and such all the way across. So it was. There was exchange, but it wasn't necessarily direct. So you don't usually, there isn't a lot of evidence, for example, of like super direct contact between the Romans and the Chinese, for example, despite them both being advanced civilizations existing at the same time on opposite ends of, Eurasia. So like they did have contact, but it wasn't like they were like close. They weren't in each other's spheres by any stretch.
Yeah. The Darklands. Once beyond the World's Edge Mountain, caravans following the Silver Road or East Road veer south. Keeping Mount Grey Hag to their north, their journey takes them to the Plain of Bones, where the road they follow, if such a grandiose term can be used, for the rough and rutted tracks that wind across the Darklands. Well, is it a paved road or is it
is this a well-maintained road?
It's a no, these are not.
No.
That meet the old Silk Road, which continues east, pressing under the shadow of the ruined fortress of Vorag as it nears the scalded slough. Here, amidst the towering ruins of ancient Nekahara's former glory, many rough settlements thrive. In these lawless realms, Cathayans and old worlds alike shelter from the dangers of the region, and merchants and mercenaries rest from the rigors of their journeys behind tall walls guarded by hardy warriors. Okay.
For many travelers through the dark lands, towns such as Pig Barter, Spice Market, and Dire Town become their final stop. Though no sane person would forgo the comforts of civilization to settle in such odious slums, for those whose past lives have rendered them unable to settle elsewhere, these wilderness outposts offer a safe haven of sorts. For others, months of travel across inhospitable wilderness prove so unbearable that they linger in these forgotten places, planning to rest a while before returning home with a passing caravan. Such plans are invariably delayed as the realities of the traveler's predicament dawns upon them, and they are quickly consumed by the culture and intrigues of their new home.
Ooh. One of the things that I always thought was interesting was, so you know where Pig Barter is? It's the south east of the desert that exists in the middle where a lot of the Chaos Dwarves live, like the ruinous desert. I always wondered if that was just a reference to Mad Max and the Thunderdome, like, and Bartertown. Like, you got the whole central area where there's the Chaos Dwarves and it's a big desert, and then right on the edge you got Bartertown.
Yeah.
Anyway, whatever the case, the wild and lawless settlements of the southern Darklands are havens for travelers, merchants, and mercenaries, and their existence is a vital link to the chain of commerce. Wow, an entire page spread on commerce and trade.
Interesting.
Let us know in the comments.
We're still going. More geography. Here we go. The Great Steppe, north of the plain of Zar, the great volcanic wasteland that lies at the heart of the Darklands, from where great clouds of lung-parching smoke and ash endlessly billow, lies Zorn Uzgul, the Great Skull Land. This desolate region marks the border between Kislev's eastern and western reaches. Here, merchants and travelers along the Beliyovbota Pass from Prague follow the Skull Road, known also as the Ivory Road, for the vast quantities that passed east and west along it, harvested from great beasts hunted in the mountains of Morn. These travelers, so we're making references without saying it to both ogres and Chaos Dwarfs here.
Yes, correct.
It's very frustrating. These travelers journey across a barren plain, passing numerous Kislevite fortresses erected against the predations of orcs, hobgoblins, and marauder tribes towards the towering cliffs of death, and at their crest, the walled city of Zamoski.
Yeah, definitely trying so hard to like put every reference they can to everything they're not allowed to talk about, but also not say it. Yeah. referred to variously as the gateway to the steppe and the Kislev's inland port city, steppe. Zamoski welcomes many Cathayan sky junks at the towering docks erected within the walls, created by the ingenious servants of the Celestial Dragon to facilitate travel over vast distances and crewed by merchants and soldiers alike. These towering ships of the sky sail majestically over the steppe, sailing between Nangao and Grand Cathay's northern Shangyang in the west. Fleets of sky junks pass high above the meandering merchants, caravans below, as they wind their way from Zamoski to the great Rasputia, Kislev's easternmost outpost, a mighty city built in the foothills beneath the floating mountain upon the plain of woe. Oh,
right.
Okay.
All right. So also interesting interjection here of the sky junks. So like not only is it a seaborne civilization, but these folks can just fly in their junks. So that seems like a better way to do this. Just take a plane. These northern routes by land and air are more direct than those that stretch across the southern Darklands, though no less hazardous for it. The land is often frozen, and marauder tribes from the Shadowlands prey greedily upon the traveling caravans.
Okay. Right, so the Mountains of Morn. Between the untamed wilderness of the Darklands and the hostile desert of the Grand Cathay western borders lies the towering vastness of the Mountains of Morn. In ages past, these frozen peaks were the domain of the Sky Titans, an ancient race of giants that had walked in the world since Celestial Dragon himself was a youth. Also, the Sky Titans were battling against the ogres. It was Cathayans who gave the Sky Titans like black powder weapons, and then when the ogres eventually defeated the Sky Titans and stole their cannons, that's where you get lead belchers and iron blasters from. So there's so the Cathayans kind of made a rod for their own back, kind of arming the desert people with weapons which turned upon you. No, nothing there.
And I mean, I'm suspiciously also just looking at that ogre loader. With the Cathayan Grey Cannon, and maybe he's just sneaking off every now and again with a cannon, handing it off to his homies.
Yeah, it's true.
Today, the perilous region has become the home of savage creatures and bloodthirsty bandits, yet for all their perils, the Mountains of Morn are far from impassable. Wide mountain passes, regularly patrolled by Jade Lancers, allow great trade routes of the world to pass through their vastness, facilitating the steady flow of merchants and adventurers that wander from west to east and back again each year.
In the North Skull Roads, in the north, the Skull Road follows the Chimera Pass through the granite peaks, eventually emerging from the mountains under the shadow of the Tower of Ashihia, Cathay's most western outpost. Here, travelers from the west pause to prepare their armored caravans for the harsh climate ahead, securing their wagons, covering and decorating them liberally with protective charms purchased from the peddlers that cluster about the tower. Okay.
In the south, the old Silk Road diverges east of Flayed Rock. Its northern Flayed Rock, thank you. Its northern branch following the Ochre River towards the Lake of Bones, where it passes into
Southern Cathay.
And meets the Way of the Tiger, a major thoroughfare that leads all the way to Shangwu. The road's southern branch, the Spice Route, follows Tianli Pass, which is guarded by the Monastery of the Celestial Dragon monks. Ooh, who are they? And emerges into the Broken Lands en route to Fu Hung and the great canals that lead to Grand Cathay's interior.
I think this is two things. Like, if it's okay to say it, I think this is two things. I think this is one. This is like SDS and the writer allowing themselves to flex on some of the other game systems potentially. They're like, no. There's an entire culture here. Like, there's roads, there's merchant caravans. This is the direction of the empire. This is like, we can literally create I can tell you that Jimmy's outhouse buffet on the Spice Road is like at this particular point. So that's part one, which I think is important. And also they're giving us and everyone who does read this the opportunity to create some great storytelling devices. Like, you can plan to have trade caravan attacks, and we have rules for baggage carts. There's no reason you couldn't put 3 or 4 baggage carts on a table in a kind of line and create some sort of scenario where you're trying to battle and take them, or whatever it might be. Like,
I think that is a scenario in the dwarf book, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a baggage, or maybe Empire. There's a baggage train ambush scenario that includes baggage carts.
Okay, so it seems to be like a key focus. But what do you think about them trying to dunk on, not a dunk, but maybe be proud of the fact that they can create like this very rich tapestry that's available to them?
I think it's really good. In fact, one wonders why Cathay's story isn't just centered on Cathay. Because there's lots of cool stuff we could be doing there instead of saying why they found their way with a giant fleet, the Jade fleet, if you will, to the old world. So now we're getting into the meat of the actual narrative now that we've established geography and trade routes.
You say that, but I don't know if that's going to be true. Let's find out.
Okay.
The Jade fleet, despite the surprising volume of traffic that passes overland between east and west, such journeys are long. Even the most determined caravan blessed with good fortune. You thought we were done with trade lines. Absolutely not. Troubled by the myriad dangers that lurk in the wilderness, will take many months to travel from the fringes of the old world to the hinterlands of Grand Cathay. This is giving how long does a laden or unladen swallow take to travel energy. Thanks, Paradise, for the bits.
It is a very big. It's a very big place. Okay, it's a very big place. So this does need to be established. How big this place is. Whoa, you are so big. Yes.
Right, okay. Many efforts have been made to decrease the duration and danger of such journeys. The Cathayans in particular proving keen to explore the skies in their wondrous floating lanterns, the Skyjunks. Yet even the largest and most advanced of these is short-range craft ill-equipped for continent-spanning flight. Planes when?
Interesting. Yet even the largest, most advanced of these is short-range craft ill-equipped for continent-spanning flight. Didn't they just say that they were used to traverse the Darklands?
I think in one go.
Okay. Anyway, thus for many, the swiftest and safest way to travel from east to west is by sea, and the people of Grand Cathay are no strangers to the great oceans of the world of legend. The flat-bottomed ships of Grand Cathay, junks in the Cathayan tongue, are ornate and elaborate, boasting intricate sails and exquisitely painted and lacquered hulls. Varying in size and purpose from small riverboats to the vast ocean-going transport vessels of the Jade fleet, the ingenuity and diversity of design and purpose seen in Cathay's ships make it an undeniable sea power. And again, if we're using historical analogs here, this is true of ancient China. There were some great trade fleets that were established and actually made passage out of China into sort of Africa and India in the 1400s.
Yeah, Chinese treasure fleets and everything around those as well. It's a big deal. Also, just go back to the sky lanterns for a moment. I do love the concept that they flew the sky lanterns as far as possible. They pitched up there. They're like, right, this is going to be a refueling station. And then another one, giving rise to the concept that there might be several petrol gas style stations on these routes with a little local population. It's a great vibe, a great energy. I want to do if I was a good hobbyist, I would do a Cathayan, petrol, again, gas station for other people. Diorama with it's
a little blimp outpost. Yeah, pretty sweet.
A guy with a giant
it's the Empire State Building. The spire on the Empire State Building was originally, I think, for docking Zeppelins to and airships. So maybe there are similar castles.
Oh, that would be cool. Okay. Right. The concerns of the Cathay's twin navies, both mercantile and military, are the concerns of Yin Yin, the Sea Dragon, and oversees responsibilities from the eastern city of Fuchao. However, a great deal of Grand Cathay's mercantile fleets from the southern harbour of Fuwang, from here, vessels bound from the old world face a much shorter journey, though still one of many months. Good to know. Good to know how long it takes. Good.
The Elves of Ulthuan. Here we go. Grand Cathay's naval might and Yin Yin's relentless exploration of the world of legends, vast oceans, has brought the Celestial Dragon's people into direct contact with the Elves of Ulthuan on many occasions. To the Azure, the world's oceans are their domain, populated by their sleek ships governed by the armies of the Sea Lord, and merely visited by the ships of other races. This view is not one shared by the Celestial Dragon, who views the elves as arrogant and holds them in cold disdain for their taming of the mighty descendants of dragons he shared the world with before the coming of the old ones. Oh, so there's some bad blood there with the elves.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that makes sense. It's both of them. I would say both the dragon people and also the elves consider themselves to be the bestest. So
it's interesting. Yeah, the Cathayans are kind of an analog to the elves in the fact that there's sort of a faction with their shit together that have more advanced technology, are very well. Their governors, the dragons, are very long lived, and it's cool now that we're establishing some animosity between the two, and that they seem to be sort of equals. That's cool.
Too often, the elves have refused to aid their allies in the West in their
I think are we in the middle? Sorry,
in the middle. It is perhaps for these reasons that dragons of Cathay have proven willing to meddle in the affairs of the far-flung nations. At some point in the distant past, an agreement was reached between the Celestial Dragon and the rulers of Ulthuan that the former would limit its power and control the Eastern Hemisphere, whilst the elves would oversee the West. But, whilst upon cursory examination, this status quo seems to have been maintained for millennia, the truth is somewhat more complex. Uh-oh.
So we have a what is that called when the Pope splits the world in half for the Portuguese and the Spanish? I can't remember.
Are we doing that? I thought this might be a reference to like not funding enough, putting enough money into NATO against. That's also a good reference as well.
Yes, I think so. So this also, again, providing some narrative ground for why they're not in constant conflict with one another, because obviously, based on what they said in the first paragraph there, these are two nations that might be in some form of contact and genuine strain at more times than now. So for some unwritten reason, they have been like, you know what, we'll stay on this side of the world, you stay on that side of the world, we're cool. Too often, the elves have refused to aid their allies in the West in their times of need, busying themselves instead with their own internecine troubles. By contrast, the Celestial Dragon has watched with interest as distant human nations have grown and flourished. He has often encouraged his children and his subjects alike to travel far, braving the dangers of the world in order to share wealth and trade in ideas and knowledge with the far-flung nations of man. Interesting. So, like, why does everyone love the humans so much? This is what I don't understand. Like, the dwarves are like, these guys, we're going to help them out. And the elves are always, they're sort of around helping out the humans. Even the Cathayans are like, we're going to help out these humans over here. This is good. I guess the Cathayans are humans, but the dragons aren't. So, interesting.
The dragons decided to make the humans their people, right? That was why we get that there. Everyone else's relationship with the humans feels like odd. They're the youngest race, are they not? I think so. Bunch. So maybe it's just that. Maybe it's just like, which is kind of anti-ethical to the condition of like how generally like we've seen in the real world like people react to others. Like maybe there's a slight semblance that like the other races are just, for all their faults, better, in that like they see a younger race and they take the role of stewardship versus the role of like subjugation. Not all of them, obviously.
They see something in this scrappy human upstartness. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's just a classic story. You see that also in sci-fi stories as well. Like like you saw it in Bab 5, where all the other races were like, these humans are idiots. Like, we'll let them be. You don't see that in Star Trek. I think actually you have like human hegemony. Actually, so anyway, right. Storm over the Westland. Yet more news of the Chainmaker's corruption of the Wasteland reached Grand Cathay in the spring. In the spring of 2277. As we get very specific, it was a Thursday as the Chaos Champion returned for another year of raiding. Having kept close attention to the invasion in the last few years, Wambo knew that the High Elves' failure to act and the endless interscene war within the lands of the Sigmar were a perfect storm for Chaos to secure a foothold on the old world. Knowing decisive action was needed, the Jade Dragon sent for his sister. Oh, here we go, to discuss how the best deal of evil. Okay, so now we're into it. I swear to God, if it starts with trade.
A time to act. Upon receiving her brother's summons, Miao Ying took to the skies and raced to the city of Beijing. It was rare for the Jade Dragon to be troubled by events far beyond the borders of Grand Cathay, and rarer still that he felt compelled to act upon them. Though Beijing stands many hundreds of miles away from Nangao, the dragons soared across the skies at impossible speeds, and Miao Ying arrived in the capital with little delay. Just like getting a little final season of Game of Thrones going on here. Speed travel. Her sudden arrival met with great reverence from the palace officials. She was quickly ushered to Wanbo's chambers, where she found her brother surrounded by charts, maps, and ledgers, the Jade Dragon seemingly shouldering the heavy responsibility of governance with little sign of trouble, even in their father's absence. Okay, so Jade Dragon is the de facto leader at the moment, because the current story is that both of the two parent dragons are missing, or they're gone. So currently we're not stressed about it, but we're probably very stressed about it in a few hundred years. Playing it cool.
With such urgent matters at hand, neither the Jade Dragon nor the Storm Dragon were in the mood for small talk and discussion of minor affairs of state. Wambo was of the opinion that the Elves of Ulthuan, self-appointed leaders amongst the civilized nations of the West, had, either through arrogance or ignorance, allowed chaos to take root in the shores of the old world. If Sigmar's empire was to fall to chaos, whilst whispers of portents warned of far great evil gathering its might in the chaos wastes, then the lands of Grand Cathay would likely be next focus for the ruinous powers' attention. Unwilling to stand idle at what would be the beginning of the end, Miao Ying and Wambo agreed that the armies of Grand Cathay were honor bound to make war besides the armies of the Empire, whether they felt the need to or not. I guess this is accurate, right? Like, I literally played. It was my day off yesterday. I played Total War for the day. Like, I kept fighting battles for the rest of the stupid Empire because I was playing Empire. Right? Like, I kept being like, oh, you're getting smashed by Vamps. I'm going to go beat up the Sylvanians. Like, and then so it's true. Like, it could be that the Empire is effectively meat fodder of what they consider them to be. They're like, let's prop up this Empire to battle and continue to battle against chaos. Otherwise, we're on our own and we have to do it ourselves.
Not just on their own, but then, the forces of chaos don't need to pay so much attention. They don't have to divert resources over there. They could instead put everything into the Great Wall or the Great Bastion. So this also has vibes of basically the role of America in the world wars as well, which is, those were centered on European conflicts, right? But yet they found themselves, fighting and dying on behalf of the West for selfish reasons, ultimately, that they wish to maintain a certain order that was not aligned with the bad guys. To oversimplify things incredibly. But what I mean there is that I should rephrase that to the Cathayans are not acting here out of pure altruism, which is kind of the way it's been shaped up until this moment. They're acting out of self-preservation. They don't want to. They would rather chaos having to fight on multiple fronts rather than just being able to focus on them.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, the host of the Storm Dragons, this is you.
Having agreed upon a military intervention, Wangbo suggested that Miao Ying herself should be the one to lead the army. His argument for her doing so was, of course, based on sound logic, for the Storm Dragon had centuries of experience battling against the worshippers of the ruinous powers in defense of the Great Bastion. Yet, Miao Ying was hesitant. She had been charged by her father with the defense of the Grand Cathay's most vulnerable border, a duty she did not take lightly and trusted few to uphold in her stead. However, after lengthy debate, Miao Ying agreed to lead the warriors of Nangao to the Old World if her brother promised to keep a weather eye on the marauder tribes that dwelt in the frozen lands to the north of the Great Bastion. And upon the magistrates, she left in charge of Nangao.
This does set us up with a big storyline if the writers wanted to go that way. Chaos doing a feint attack into the Empire to drag the Cathayans out so that they could do a big push into Cathay. Like, there's a genuine plot line there that's available, which could be very interesting. Upon her return to Nangao, Miao Ying ordered the noble families from the surrounding lands to begin raising fresh regiments of Jade warriors from amongst the people and dispatch them to the Great Bastion. This fresh crop of recruits freed many veterans from the northern border battle hardened in the endless war against marauder tribes to accompany Miao Ying the journey to the old world. I think this is just what they copy. They copy and paste this directly into the community article. Like I've read that exactly. Okay. By the end of the summer, the freshly raised forces arrived at Nangao and had completed the fundamental part of their training, by which time the city's main foundries had forged dozens of new war machines and many months' worth of campaign supplies had been gathered and loaded atop ox-drawn carts. Don't forget the cabbage carts. The army of the Storm Dragon was ready to march. Okay, so here we go.
Or sail, I guess.
So sail. Yeah. Okay, the journey west. All right, we've set the scene. We know what's happening. We're ready to rock.
By the way, we have yet to prime the Empire that this entire fleet is coming to help them. All right, so here we go. The journey west. By traveling down the winding rivers and canal ways that crisscross Grand Cathay, the Storm Dragon's army was able to cover the many hundreds of miles from Nangao to Fuheng far quicker. Up a bit, thank you. Quicker than a force traveling by foot. Miao Ying traveled ahead of her forces, arriving in Fuheng many weeks before the long caravan of barges in order to muster an ocean-going fleet to carry them to the old world. Whilst awaiting the arrival of her warriors, the Storm Dragon called upon the magic of her father to awaken ancient Terracotta Sentinels. These towering constructs had been vital in the defense of Cathay for many centuries, but now they would travel to the lands of the old world to do battle with the enemy that called for their creation.
That's quite fun. That's quite fun. I like the idea of just like a random village in the Empire having like a Cathay Sentinel and like Chaos Marauders coming in being like, oh, that's just a statue. And then it just starts walloping them. That's fun.
Bam!
Yeah.
Yes.
When the Storm Dragon's army arrived in Fuyang, accompanied by the First Snows on Winter, a mighty fleet of Cathayan junks awaited them in the harbour, alongside the bulky transport craft that would house the soldiers of Grand Cathay. Sleek war junks lay at anchor, ready to accompany the fleet the dangerous waters that lay ahead. In deeper waters, a pair of massive transport junks flanked Miao Ying's vast flagship, which waited for the rest of the army's deeper waters, having already secured the Terracotta Sentinels on board. Interesting.
All right, she's rolling with the statues. Preparing such a massive fleet was no small undertaking. And it was many days until all of Miao Ying's soldiers were aboard their transport junks and ready to set sail. Under the impassive gaze of Tang Fu, one of the great ancient sentinels, Miao Ying's fleet departed the port of Fuheng and began its journey towards the old world, hoping to arrive in Marienburg before spring thaw gave way to summer heat, and another season of raiding and warfare saw the Norscans defile yet more of Sigmar's realm.
I'm obsessed with the fact that we're knowing the seasons. We're leaving around wintertime. We're getting there as spring. Summer's on the horizon. Miao Ying and a fleet. Sorry,
the Cathayans learning, I think, from many experiences in history. Don't do the war stuff in winter. Usually a bad choice.
Yes. Miao Ying and a fleet were met with little trouble for much of the journey, for the wind blew favorably and winter sun shone down upon them. Such fortune was not to last, however, for the fleet edged within sight of the Sea of Claws, and a natural storm manifested from what had been clear skies. Bolts of eldritch lightning flashed overhead, and thunder rumbled like the bellow of a great demon. As the hurricane winds crashed the sound of torture screams across the water, cold and rain lashed at sailors like barbed whips. With no sheltered covers or inlets to find reprieve from the storm, there was little the junk crews could do as their ships were tossed about in colossal waves that threatened to sink the entire fleet. Oh no.
Ooh, shades of the Spanish Armada there, but what happens?
Oh, that's true.
Sensing the presence of the dark gods leering through the darkened clouds, Miao Ying knew that whoever had conjured the storm above the Cathayan fleet was a powerful practitioner of the arcane. For not, I bet you we got a little gal rock. For not only had they darkened the skies from horizon to horizon, but they had done so from many miles away. Somehow, the servants of the ruinous powers knew of Miao Ying's coming and were doing everything in their unholy power to prevent her and her warriors from reaching the shores of the old world.
Makes sense when they're the most vulnerable.
Of Zinch there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, even a sorcerer such as of such potency pales in comparison to the great power of a Cathayan dragon. Drawing upon the power of the storm wind, Miao Ying unleashed a counter spell of immense power, brilliant blue lightning arcing from her as she banished the storm clouds, stilled the winds and calmed the waters beneath her ships. With the storm subdued, Miao Ying's fleet regrouped off the coast of Dragon's Maw, watched intently by elven eyes from the towers of the sea, Lord Garrison rising amidst the cluster of islands as they prepared for the final stage of their journey. Interesting. Okay. Well, but was it the elves who tried to stop them? They wouldn't do that.
Hey, actually,
do you know what I mean?
Could be. Could be.
Okay.
Could be.
Could be.
Signs of war. When, by the way, the elves are also now hip to the fact that the Cathayans are breaking their treaty and they're showing up with a big war fleet. And also, just in the back of my head too, this is really interesting. Just from how are they going to square the fact that it is the elves ultimately that come to the aid of the Empire in the original version of the Great War Against Chaos. So, like, is it Teclis? That's the mage. He sets up the colleges of magic. He trains the Empire trains the Empire in ways of harnessing magic in a more controlled way. So, maybe I'm wondering if Cathay is a temporary interlocutor. Anyway, if they get out of the way, there you go. Interlocutor? I don't know. If they get out of the way later as the war progresses and have to go back to tend to things, because as noted, like they've defended their border with inexperienced troops now. Miao Ying is distracted, so perhaps Cathay isn't here for the full war against chaos, but only to draw attention to how important this is.
For sure.
The signs of war. When the Cathayan fleet made its way past Reaver's Point, the telltale signs of conflict began to appear all around them. Smoke rose from recently raided coastal villages, and the shattered hulls of destroyed wolf ships. Bretonnian galleys and Marienburg man-o'-wars littered the beaches as torn sailcloth, errant barrels, and broken wreckage rolled in the surf. As the Cathayan junks sailed by, Miao Ying's warriors bowed their heads in reverence to the soldiers and sailors of the old world who had lost their lives. That's very nice. For there were few causes greater to die for than the safety and security of one's nation.
While at sea, man of war coming soon. There's so much boat chat in this.
A lot of boats.
I don't know if we made ourselves boat pilled, but this is so much. The stillness was shattered suddenly by the cries of spotters perched atop the mast of the Cathayan junks as they spied a small fleet of battered Marienburg ships crossing the horizon. A flotilla of Norscan wolf ships in pursuit. Miao Yin wasted little time in giving the order to engage. Chasing wolf ships, we're literally going to get a sea battle. Her commands quickly rippling through the fleet, sending sailors scrambling to their battle stations as Sky Lantern crews raced to launch the airships into the sky.
Within minutes, a host of Sky Lanterns had soared into the sky ahead of the Storm Dragon's fleet, so they're aircraft carriers. Again, real shades of the United States here. We got airborne sea power. They're not engaging with ships of the line. They're sending out their airplanes basically. Sky ahead of the Storm Dragon's fleet, and the grand cannons upon the decks of her warships stood loaded, ready to unleash their fury. The crews of the Norscan wolf ships had little idea of the danger they were in as they maintained their course, unaware that the Sky Lanterns would be overhead long before they could overtake the beleaguered Empire warships.
Wow. Okay. I can't believe they have aircraft carriers. Balloon craft carriers. BCCs.
Balloon craft carriers.
A Sky Lantern closed upon the wolf ships, their crews ready long-barrel guns. Well, we know how this is going to go. Auto-win. Whilst their commanders carefully measured the shrinking distance. The moment the wolf ships came within range, the order to open fire was given as skies were filled with booming retorts. Upon the decks, the wolf ships and Norscans were slain in their droves as crane gun shot punched fist-sized holes through wooden gunwales, crude shields and bodies alight. When the Sky Lanterns passed overhead, gunpowder bombs were loosened to plummet towards the decks of the wolf ships, whilst those found that the mark had detonating with cacophonous explosions. Now, this is where many people might be a little upset or worried about the release of the Man of War game, because it does feel like that when Man of War is released and Cathay gets their book or their release, they're also going to get balloons in that as well.
Might be a bit of a balloon problem. Could be a balloon problem. Yes. Could I have a little zoom out, please, sir?
Sure.
Whilst the Sky Lanterns struck from above, the first of Miao Ying's war junks drew into range and unleashed a barrage of cannon fire. Huge cannonballs shattered wolf ship hulls and masts, filling the air with splinters of wood the size of spears and allowing the cold waters of the Sea of Claws to flood into the floundering vessels. The bombardment was quickly joined by the freshly rallied Empire ships, emboldened by the surprise appearance of the Cathayan fleet. Oh, okay, so here we go. So maybe they're just homies.
They're just homies. I think that's all it is. The few wolf ships still capable of adjusting course made every effort to escape. Despite their efforts to maneuver away, the Storm Dragons were unwilling to allow any of the Chaos warships to escape. For Miao Ying did not wish to give the Chainmaker an opportunity to learn anything else about the Cathayan forces that had not already been revealed to the Chaos Champions by her sorceress spies. Okay, so there is no goodness. It's all murder all the time. Okay. Then we have utter annihilation in this amazing picture of Galrak versus a Storm Dragon.
Potentially. By the time, that does look a lot like it could be Galrak, but here we go. By the time Miao Ying declared the battle won, all that remained of the Norscan fleet was the blazing wreckage of a few half-sunken wolf ships. Many sailors aboard the Empire warships had stared in awe, whilst the Cathayan war junks had gone about their bloody work. For most had only ever encountered merchant vessels and traders from the east, never having borne witness to the might of Grand Cathay's fleet. With the Chaos forces in the immediate area still sinking below the waves, the Empire's ships and their Cathayan escort turned toward the Man-and-Sport Sea.
Ooh, tacking into the Man-and-Sport Sea. So much boat talk. The fleet passed yet more signs of the ongoing conflict for burned docksides, ruined watch forts, and abandoned fishing villages littered the coastlines, both Empire and the Kingdom Bretonnia. That would be great for some terrain. Though the impact of the raiding and conflict lessened the closer the fleet got to Marienburg, it was not until it was almost within the sight of the sea itself that the sears of the war vanished, leaving those within the safety of its walls free from the horrors that had been unleashed upon many other areas in that region.
On the final stretch of the journey, the fleet had caught the attention of many smaller watercraft as fishermen, bargemen, and traders ceased their work to follow the mighty fleet as the city as it made approach to Marienburg's great docks. Within the city, bells tolled to herald the Cathayans' coming as massive crowds gathered atop the walls to bear witness to the splendor of the Storm Dragon's fleet.
The mighty Grand Cathay has arrived in the old world. There we go. I got that last The grand arrival. The sun pretentiously pierced. Wow. And the darkened clouds for the first time in weeks as the Cathayan fleet reached the harbour. The sunlight watching the red and jade of the serried ranks of the Jade warriors stood on the decks. The polished steel.
Polish steel.
Of the armour glittered brightly in the spring sunshine, and the soft breeze gently billowed the plumes of their helms as the legions of the Storm Dragon prepared to make landfall. The dock workers making every effort to accommodate the vast number of ships that waited to disembark their warriors. No one so far has brought up any issue with them just landing. Okay? You don't need to worry.
Bit sus. It's just very strange. I guess maybe the context of this world is that but no, they're always fighting each other. Like, I mean, they're always fighting each other. Like, it's not just good guys versus bad guys.
Always
but I guess
fighting.
Like I don't know. All right. It was the Terracotta Sentinels that caused the largest uproar. Cries of shock and fear ringing across the docks when the mighty constructs drew themselves up from the decks of their transport junks. First to step ashore, however, was Miao Ying herself, whose great stature and aura of power drew wonderment and prolonged stares from Empress Margarita's waiting delegation as she strode down the gangplank. Even though the Storm Dragon chose to present herself in human form, probably a good step. You don't want to come on too heavy there. You want to maybe, just put a human foot forward, not a, giant dragon forward. Mm-hmm. Not wishing to frighten the folk of the Empire with her true appearance, the silence grew long whilst the waiting Marienburgers found their voices to welcome Miao Ying, inviting her to join them in Margarita's court.
Ooh, okay. Good decision to arrive as a human, not a dragon.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna shock people,
Diplomatic.
Though. Yeah, when
maybe
you do turn into a dragon.
Juan Bao.
Going to be a bit of a burn the witch situation. Meanwhile, far to the north, the prow of the Norscan wolf ship emerged from the fog as it approached the town of Holland. A figure
Not again.
Whoa, but don't forget, but Frydaal's already there. A figure clad in darkened iron leapt from the deck and landed noisily onto the docks. A pair of horns curving from atop her head. Oh, it's just Frydaal. And a wicked smirk upon her lips as she looked over her shoulder to observe the arrival of another massive fleet of Norscan wolf ships. Oh, it seems like Cathay got there just in time. Okay. Then we get some pictures. By the way, these pictures are sick. They've built docks, which is just brilliant. You've got a picture of a boat.
Yep, we got a junk in the background there.
Junk in the background there with some docks, some people landing off the docks, some Cathayan Sentinels and stuff. The pictures go hard as fuck, in my opinion.
Yeah, they look great.
So very, very, very much looking forward to that. Anyway, so then we are into the war in the wasteland, the coming of chaos. No, this is it. That's it. That's the whole story.
Okay.
With that,
that I think that sets up the sets up the series of 3 missions where they actually tell that that actually tell this battle between Cathay and Norsca.
Well, let us know if you'd like us to cover those as well, chat. I got to say, I do tend to find that these books have a very broad, a very like kind of sing-songy style writing vibe. They give us a lot of like broad scopes, but they don't really dig into any detail. Which
I was going to say, they went into some pretty serious detail about all kinds of things. I guess the connections between East and West, although there is a section in the first Arcane Journal from Cathay that does talk about the relationship between the East and the West. Dare I say, a little filler-esque, little bit marking for time there to get some pages accomplished, especially when there's so much cool stuff that could be happening
Yeah, I feel like I do feel hard for I do feel like it's very difficult for them, because if your first experience of picking up an old world book is this CATHAYAN book, you at least want some sort of establishment, right? Like of the setting and what's going on with everything.
Yeah.
Those first 2 or 3 pages is fine. It just feels like that we got to the main crux of the point and we didn't get any further, I guess. We didn't really see, there wasn't much action, but I guess the point is that we then make the action happen. Like we do the campaigns, we do the missions, we start telling the story by playing the game, which I think is the jump off point, right? Because from that point on, like if you do have a Cathay army, you're out there playing games now at tournaments or at events or at your local club, and you can do all sorts of fun stuff there. While also having the Cathay army, you could go back and start telling some stories in and around Cathay. You've been given a lot of like setting for that. Do you think that there's anything missing? Like, is there some more you would like to see? Like, I'd like to see much more about trade routes in the future.
Well, I think that's why I really yearn for like a Black Library treatment of this, or even, probably we're going to see, in the Warhammer Fantasy roleplay side of things from Cubicle 7, because they are doing old world set role-playing game, which has been released or is in the process of being released, to really give, I don't know, less of the big pieces of the puzzle and more of the actual story of everything that happened there. Because to me, there was like a really missed opportunity to discuss like the sales job of, look, we're going to show up, we're going to have a big ass army, don't worry, we're here to fight chaos. Because one thing that's been blatantly clear about the motivations of the human beings involved here and the elves is they don't care. They don't care that Frydaal is burning down Harlem and rampaging around in the woods and all this stuff. They've got stuff to deal with. They're trying to win the crown, right? So like something has to like convince them that this is something very important that they need to pay attention to. And if you're more worried about your own personal power and influence and extension of that power, what could possibly be more threatening than a celestial dragon and grand army showing up in your ports? I don't know if you necessarily open up those docks and send your finest dressed emissaries to speak with them. You're probably viewing that with a great deal of suspicion. It's an invasion fleet. So that's what I would have loved to have seen discussed, like that interplay of let us help you, rather than they just show up and walk in. That was a bit disappointing, because there's also no opportunity to see how does that exchange work. Like how do the Marienburgers from like their ruler's perspective react to the celestial dragon and such? Yeah, it just seems like.
There's a really tense, like Game of Thrones style episode, isn't there? Where like they're all in the court, maybe they're at a ball, welcoming the celestial dragon. Lots of discussion about how the poor folk are kept locally. We don't do that where we're from. Will you help me with this, with my attempt to get the crown or take over the whole empire? Like there's a lot of like shady dealings and machinations that could be chatted about, which I think is really good, especially when lots of the story focuses on like these central characters and very little focuses on like if we got this entire story told from the perspective of one of the infantrymen and seeing like the dragon flying around and then getting there, meeting up with some of the locals, then you would get that scale. But we don't. Like, you're quite right to bring up the politics and the conversation of like these different nation states, because we are dealing with the national leaders. So we don't see it from any other perspective. So that's quite interesting as well, especially when we often play with the regular dudes. And often don't play with. I mean, some places don't even allow name characters at events or even in games, right? That's still a thing. Some places,
some places, but I mean, I believe I could summarize the average soldier's reaction with "Blimey." I believe that's basically what that would boil down to. But like Juan Bo, who's like got all of his maps and charts and reports from his various whispers and stuff, like to me that there's like a ripe opportunity there that he's already laid the groundwork for this. He's already struck a deal with Magritte. Maybe he needed to make a side deal with the elves too, to be able to get that safe passage without starting a war with the elves, because the elves just happen to see them sailing by. So the elves know that the Cathayans are breaking their treaties, so that must piss them off. And clearly they have some degree of animosity with one another, because, as mentioned, the elves kind of killed a bunch of dragons and made them their slaves. So like that's got to be awkward.
Maybe that's also why the elves eventually end up in the Empire, right? Like they don't want the Cathayan influence on the Empire. That, you know, like this becomes like a Cold War state where everyone is trying to have it. That dwarfs, the elves, everyone is trying to have influence on the Empire from like external, which is quite interesting. Like it really centers them. I don't really geographically I think they are geographically central against chaos. So I guess that's kind of the idea. I think it's interesting what it sets up. I feel like I know half of this is rules and half of this, and I really appreciated the pictures. I just want to be really clear. I found these to be very inspiring. As a book, would it be fair to say that this Arcane Journals felt a little anemic? And obviously I know what that feels like. It was a bit, but it wasn't lots of narrative. It was some rules, but it wasn't lots of them either. Like, what do you think?
I mean, no, this was a very, I think anemic is a good way to describe this particular book. In just the quality of the output. The scenarios maybe worth having a look at how they do the linked games and their little campaign that they have in here. But like, for example, the multiplayer rules were just kind of sad.
Yeah,
they were just essentially sometimes people play with more than one player. And I'm sure like having the we cover in another video the rules for the Jade fleet of Miao Ying and what that does or doesn't do for Cathay. But overall, probably not a great Arcane Journal. Not a whole lot of meat here, aside from the pictures. The pictures are pretty cool.
Yeah, I would agree.
That's not a great review. Pictures are nice.
Yeah, the pictures. Yeah, all of the text, the pictures are nice. Now, listen, as a logistics nerd, I got a lot of logistics. Maybe it's a situation my eyes too big for my stomach. Maybe I didn't want that much logistics. I don't know.
Now it's covered.
But let us know in the comments if you enjoyed this and if you'd like us to approach doing some of the other Arcane Journals. Also, let us know if you have, because my suspicion is many people haven't read any of the Arcane Journals that you picked up, and which one was your favorite. I know that the Beastmen one got like a lot of love. People thought that was a very fun one, so that could be very fun to do. That could be quite nice. I assume things like the Elven one will be really broad.
Well, no, that's the other thing here is that the elves are in the old world doing a special. They're on a special mission with the White Lions of Trace. Although they're just there to rescue somebody, if I recall correctly.
Correct. Yeah.
They're kind of more, again, still pretty insular and self-interested there. It's interesting. And then I think again, maybe this is backwards rationalizing it, but a lot of times I think the army books in the past and now obviously the Arcane Journals, what they're doing is they're establishing the high level, and then all that stuff that I was sort of going on about would be maybe the detail of the intrigue. Maybe Wombo did send emissaries out and like there was negotiations to make this all seem like it was supposed to happen and be very, very cool when they arrived. So there's plausibility there that in the future, an author, if given the brief and the time to do that, can actually develop this story. But shocking to me that an army like Grand Cathay was not released alongside a novel about them. Dust off Dan Abnett or whomever to like tell this story of them coming west.
But we can't get Dan Abnett. He's busy working on Man of War Book 2, I assume.
That's obviously. Yes. I think it's actually being adopted into an Amazon series.
The most likely one. All right, okay, so let us know what you think. Thanks for tuning in. This has been very, very fun. I've enjoyed it, and hopefully we get to do more of it in the future. But of course, we can also do army reviews and a bunch of other stuff. So lots to talk about.
Like, I don't know. We're just all out of armies. I mean, there's no armies left for us to even talk about. So
there's like none. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you all soon, and goodbye.